Talk, where our focus is on mind, body, soul, and business. You are now tuning in with Izzi Meditates and Kendra Moore. And we decided to kind of hop on here today, last minute, to talk about self-care. So I'd like to give a brief introduction, and then Kendra, I'll send it on over to you so you can give a brief introduction. I am Izzi Meditates, also known as Isabel, and I am a mindfulness meditation guide. I really believe in self-care. I believe in meditation, and I definitely believe in essential oils and using all of those types of systems to practice great self-care. So we are here today and excited to share this space with you. And Kendra, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Kendra Moore, otherwise known as your personal essential oils coach. And that's what I do. I coach people on how to utilize essential oils in their daily life. So from skincare to, around your house. And I'm a certified personal essential oils coach. And then I'm also the owner operator of More Life LLC. And we're a natural body care solutions company. And of course, our products feature essential oils in them.
I love it.
I'm all remember that.
Yeah, I know, right? I remember when you first came on and I'm just like, wow. And all the awesome tips that you have shown us on how we can use, because when you think of essential oils, I personally think of essential oils as helping with an illness or an ailment that you might have. I didn't know that you could use them to clean. I didn't know we could use them to help our hair and things like that. So when you came on and you were like, let's choose a show and let's talk about, what do you want to talk about? Hair. I was like, yeah,
I know. You and a lot of people, they're like, hair definitely won out. And then for me, this is like perfect because I also love meditation. Don't do it as much as I should, unless I'm super stressed out, then I'm doing it all the time. But I'm honored to be on here with you. And also,
Nice. Very nice. So let's start off with the definition of self-care. Every individual is going to have a different definition of self-care.
Right.
And so for me, self-care is taking time to love on yourself. And this could be having a cup of tea when the children aren't around, or a cup of coffee when the children aren't around. It could look like going for a walk, eating your favorite snack. Meditation is one for me, and journaling. So what does self-care look like for you?
So self-care for me are those types of things as well when you're taking time for yourself. But for me, it's also what I've learned in my life's journey is that it's a lot about the decisions we make on a daily basis, whether there are things that's going to enhance our lives or bring it down. So everything from like work to relationships to how you handle your friends and family, So to me, it's like trying to be in that constant state of that balance. I hate to use that word because it's difficult to balance everything, but to not be in a stress state all the time. So that's that's my definition of self-care.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So my next question that I have, what oils can we use to promote awesome self-care?
Yeah, so there are great oils for that. Frankincense, a lot of people are familiar with frankincense, and that's because it's like people think of it as like a spiritual type of oil because it actually works with your senses and your brain to trigger that kind of, let's say, mindfulness or internal reflection. So that's why you see that a lot in and meditation or spiritual practices, myrrh. And then it depends on what you need. If you're self-care, if you're feeling down and you need to lighten up and you want that, bring yourself up to a happy feeling, then orange is one, lemon, like anything, citrus works. So it depends. There's 100+ oils out there. So there's one for everyone to help with their self-care.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I had read in an article, and I should have brought it with us, and there was all of the different types of chakras, and in each chakra was a different type of oil that you could use. So I'm going to definitely send that over to you because I'd be interested in trying to meditate in that specific chakra. whether
Yeah.
it's the crown chakra or so forth, and using that essential oil to see how my meditation would turn out with having that scent and that soothing smell just going through your nostrils
Yeah.
while you're meditating. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I do, for example, like a frankincense or cedar wood, that type of oil. To me, I tend to gravitate towards oils that have that woodsy scent when I want
Okay.
to like calm down. And you do feel it. Like when you drop it, I drop it right on the crown of my head. And then it's almost like a sensation type of thing after a while, like you drop it on and like you said, just kind of relax. And it does make a difference. So I
That's
got you,
very
Izzy.
nice.
I will send you some.
Oh, nice. Thank you. I
Oh,
am loving the butter. I've been putting that on my feet to kind of soften it up because in the wintertime, it's just so the skin starts to crack. It doesn't
yeah,
really like the atmosphere of the cold. And so I'm finding that my skin is much more drier
right,
than usual. Yeah. And with the oils, I like to talk about the hair because I saw your episode. Um, And personally, I have oily hair already. What would
right,
you suggest um, to help with that? Like adding in the essential oils if I already have oily hair, what would
right.
help to create a balance for that? Yeah.
So you can use lemon essential oil. You can use tea tree. So tea tree is a good one. For the tea tree, you can, I didn't mention this in the video that I did, but you can actually put it in your shampoo and
Oh,
conditioner
wow.
that you have already. You can drop essential oils in there to
Yeah.
help. So you can drop some tea tree oil in there for oily hair. And,
Yeah.
in talking about self-care, and I think we have to be more intentional about the things that we do that
Right.
we look at it as a chore, as to being like flipping that as a chore into some kind of like a self-care practice. So when
Right.
you talked about washing your hair, you can add your essential oils, you can give yourself a nice massage,
Yeah.
make it to a way that you're actually like, oh man, I'm looking forward to washing my hair because I need, a really
Right.
deep massage. Close your eyes. You're the meditation expert.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how you like when you wash your hair, if you're just like, da, 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 it's
I
hard
know,
to
right?
do because we're all busy. But I
Yeah.
think we have to find these ways to
Yeah.
incorporate self-care in the little things that we do.
Yeah. I totally agree with that because when I was a first time mom, it was just like I was trying to be so, such a good mom. And I'm spending all that time with my son
Yeah.
that I neglected a lot of things for myself. And then as time went on, and then I had my second child, I realized that the little things are what count.
Yeah.
Even, if you're showering, just to take in that deep breath, breathe
Yeah.
in and breathe out that warm mist coming from the shower, just simple things and small things that kind of help out. And that's why I suggested that we come on to talk about these things because as moms, dads, even men, we're so, they're
Yeah.
busy. Life is so
All the
busy, and we
time.
need to take those moments, whether it's using your oils or whether it's using meditation or going for a walk and just taking a moment to just breathe in and let things be. Yeah.
Yep. And I think also like I said, the little things. One thing that helps me is when I wake up in the morning before I get out of bed, I stretch.
Oh,
While
nice.
I'm in
Yeah.
bed, like I stick my legs out,
Yeah.
I flex my feet, all of these type because what I found is that I was just like waking up and then jumping out of bed and then I gotta fix breakfast or work out or you know what I mean? And as soon
Yeah.
as you're up, you're like going. But just
Yeah.
those 3 minutes and me doing like, okay, let me stretch my leg, let me like rotate my feet and get my muscles and body like sending that signal like, okay, we're getting ready to get started.
Right.
That really, really helps. What about
Yeah.
you? What do you do for your self-care?
Well,
Some of the
I
things.
try to be more consistent. One of my favorites is Wayne Dyer, and he
Oh
has
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, I love Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
And in his movie, the first thing he did when he got out of bed was he sit up, he stretch, and he'd
Yeah.
take his arms and he'd say thank you, and then he'd draw his hands together and say, I surrender. And then
Right.
what's my assignment? What's my assignment for today? So every morning
Mhm.
I try to do that and
That's,
breathe and try to put my phone way out of stretch
yes.
because the first thing I really want to do is get up and see what's going on Facebook, see
I'm
who's
bad at
alert.
that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so bad. And I found out in doing that I was actually like stressing myself out
Right.
because I'm taking in all of these different energies, you know.
Yep.
I might be taking in someone's energy who's rushing or someone who's complaining. But then I have a person who's grateful and she's showing gratitude. So emotions are all over the place in the
Yep.
morning on Facebook and Instagram. And so I'm taking that in. So I decided to stop, lay in the bed, stretch for a minute, gather my thoughts, you know, give
Right.
thanks, and then move on to my phone. And sometimes I wait 15, 20 minutes before I actually, you know, get into the phone because once that thing is in my hand.
Hello. That's me. I have to do better at that. So I've
Yeah.
heard that people will put their phone downstairs, like, in a different room.
Yeah.
And I heard this one guy, he actually had to put it in his car. So that way, like he was that, to grab his phone. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, the phone is, yeah, I have to work on that. You got me on that one.
Yeah. I would say like another way to practice self-care, and I've talked about it before, is just journaling,
Mm,
writing about your feelings and writing about your thoughts. I think that's awesome self-care. Another way to practice good self-care is to honor your temple by giving it good foods. I think that that's really important. You're showing honor to yourself
yeah.
by eating foods that are appropriate. And I'm not saying that you have to like not eat or consume any junk food or cake sometimes, but if you're constantly feeding yourself
Yep.
like bad foods, then yeah, that's definitely not good self-care. You end up with issues and having to go to the doctor. So I think that that's also a great way to practice self-care. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. So let's see if we have some comments out there.
Yeah,
What
sure.
the audience is saying.
Oh, we have Tyrone Ricks. Hi,
Hi,
Tyrone.
Tyrone.
From the Tent of Life.
Yep.
We love Tyrone Briggs. We love the Tent of Life. He is an awesome, awesome figure in the community, always supporting his community by helping. And we appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Hey, Brian. We got Brian
All
Nichols.
right.
He says,
Thank
hi,
you.
Queens.
Queen
What's up,
yourself.
Brian is also an awesome supporter. You got to check out his page. He is a author and he has several books that I've seen on his actual Facebook page. And of
Oh,
course,
very
we got
cool.
Mr. Charles Brakely. Good evening, ladies.
Hi,
Hi, Chucky.
Charles. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Tyrone.
So let me ask you guys, guys and girls who are out there and engaging in this conversation with us tonight, how do you practice self-care? I want to
Yep.
hear from you. I want to hear from you, Tyrone. All right, Charles says self-care is loving yourself.
It
Thank
is
you for that,
loving.
Charles. I
And
want to hear.
that's something you gotta I feel like you gotta grow into. Like when I think about like all the stuff that I've been through to get
Yeah,
to where I am today. And it's not always easy, but you definitely have to get to that point because the world is just like you said, everything is so emotional, up and down. People come into you with problems and
right.
you're trying to deal with your own thing. And if you're married or have a partner and dealing with kids, you can
Yeah,
definitely lose yourself
right,
in that. So
right.
loving yourself is definitely key.
Yeah.
So I brought something. Oh,
Ooh,
what
we got
would be?
another comment. Charles says, what would be a great eye opener? Essential oil, an
Ah,
oil that will wake you up in the morning. Well, I
yeah,
don't know if morning or night.
peppermint and eucalyptus.
Oh, nice.
Peppermint, because of course, when you smell peppermint, it just kind of like jolts you awake. Eucalyptus is good. And then the other one is spearmint. So like
Oh,
spearmint from
nice.
spearmint gum from back in the day, that's
Yeah.
actual and essential oil. And
Oh,
so
nice.
that has a really refreshing scent. And then of course, always go to your citrus fruits, orange, lemon, grapefruit has
Yeah.
essential oil. Tangerine has essential oil as well. So those are the popular ones that I would recommend for
Nice.
that. Yeah, and get some sleep.
So, that too. Charles
Yeah,
said, thank you. Thank you for that.
no problem.
Uh,
So I want to show you. I brought one thing that I use for my self-care, So are you familiar with adaptogens?
No, not at all.
So adaptogens are, for those, some of you may be familiar, but this is actually like a coffee alternative. So
Oh, nice.
so it looks like coffee. You steep it like tea, actually.
Mhm.
And adaptogens, what they do is, I don't know if you can see inside there.
Look at that.
Yeah, so
Nice.
what they do is that they actually are a blend of herbs, or they're types of herbs, and they help to, they help balance your stress level
Okay.
and energy level as well. So when
Nice.
you're talking about, the foods and, feeding your body, those are things that are also out there. So you'll also find sometimes coffee with adaptogens in it.
Mhm.
So those are, some tools that you can use, aside
Nice.
from like using coffee, because coffee brings you up and then it may bring you down.
Right.
Not
Right.
that I don't drink it, 'cause I had some this afternoon. So, but,
That's awesome. So I have a question about that. Do you take a little scoop and put it in like a tea bag, or you just put it directly in water?
yeah, you can use a French press. Um,
Okay.
you can use that. You can use I actually use a tea ball. So
Oh,
when you buy
nice. Yeah.
sweet teas,
R-
and then it's a
Right.
tablespoon goes into that, and then you steep it in water for like 10 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Nice.
So,
And I have another question. I know I've been asking you so many questions. I'm so glad to have you in my seat, girl.
I appreciate it.
So with the oils, I noticed that you had talked about, like, sometimes putting them on your wrist,
Yeah,
or maybe putting them behind here. Can you put them on your pillowcase? I know
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So it depends on the oil. It depends on your skin sensitivity, right? So
Okay.
there are some oils out there that are really, really gentle. Chamomile, a lot of your floral oils like geranium, rose, chamomile, lavender, those tend to be more gentle. And you can actually, what you can do is you can drop some essential oils in a water bottle and then use
Uh-huh.
that to mist your linens.
Oh, wow.
So that way you can, so if you're having problems sleeping, back to Charles, or no, he had a problem waking up. If you have a problem sleeping, then you would take lavender, drop some in a water bottle,
Uh-huh.
and then just mist your pillow and your linens, and then that'll help you go
Nice.
to sleep. Yep.
Nice. And in the shower also, right? You can put it in the shower so that the
You
mist
can put
could
it in the
like
shower.
right.
So
Right.
sometimes what I do is I'll take in like a hot shower and I'll just sprinkle little drops,
Yeah.
and then it'll come up. So yep. So you can use it like
Yeah.
that as well.
So let's see if we have any of the audience that have responded to my question. I wanted to know how you practice self-care. We have Charles says, I can drink coffee and go right to sleep. What?
Oh,
How's that
wow.
possible?
I know. No, thank you.
Yeah. No, I can't do that. If I drink coffee, the other day I don't sleep very well to begin with. And so it was 9 o'clock. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna have a cup of Starbucks. Guess what? Your
You're
girl was up 48 hours straight.
wait,
48
what?
hours. No sleep because couldn't sleep because of the coffee. And then I was up all that day and all
Wow,
that night. Yeah.
wow. That's not good self-care, Izzy.
I know, I know, I know. I shouldn't have done it.
That's not good self-care. So
It
can we
tastes
talk
so
about
good.
self-care in terms of like I said before, like, because a lot of things, like, people say, well, self-care is Sunday, I'm going to go get my nails done or this,
Right.
and I get that, but at the same time I'm also like, well, if you are in a stressful situation,
Yeah.
work, job, like, getting your nails done will make you feel good for the moment, but what about addressing the root cause? And not to get into
Right.
relationship or anything issues, but
Right.
just talk about like the greater purpose, I guess, when we're talking about caring for ourselves.
Right.
So,
Right.
you have any comments?
And
Any?
for me, I was going to say self-care could also be because we think of mind, body, and soul. So
Yes.
mind could be meditation. I also believe that self-care could be educating yourself
Yes.
and reading things that help to build yourself up, or to just, to learn something new, that
Yeah.
just that energy to be like, wow, this is something great. Or, so focus on your mind. Your body is your temple, eating the appropriate foods, using, your products and so forth. And soul is basically whatever you believe in to dive into that, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Muslim, whatever you read to get connected with that. And it's really important now because we've been in this pandemic thing for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be in it for a longer period of time. And I read several articles that have talked about mental health. And I've even been concerned with mental health of just people in general, but especially children. And so that's why I think that mindfulness meditation is super important for teachers to incorporate in their classroom so that we could understand and help the children understand their emotions, because there's a lot of different energies that are coming from so many different areas,
Right.
and it's frustrating for them and it's making them worried and concerned. So self-care is about mind, body, and soul, and you can't separate the three.
Yeah.
You can't just focus on your mind and just say, you know what, forget about my body. I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat what I want. They all work together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to think of things as in a holistic way, because
Yeah.
everything is attached. So Charles says he works
Yeah.
out for self-care. Yes. So
Nice.
that is, yes, relieves. So working out definitely relieves stress, and let's not forget eating right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so one of the things that I loved to do before it got really too cold early in the mornings for me to go out is actually just out walking. So I would get up in the mornings, go out walking, and then what I found is I would start off with my music, get myself motivated, and then at the end, about 20, 30 minutes towards the end of my walk, I would turn it off so I can just like take in what's happening around me. And in the morning,
Right.
pretty quiet, and then that would be that's when I start having all these like thoughts around, okay, this is what I need to do, and let me think about my goals, or let me have some prayer time, let me just give thanks while I'm walking. So you can incorporate
that's definitely needed. I mean, in my youth, I had to have noise. We had those earphones, the little
Yep.
Walkmans,
Yep.
and it was a lot of noise. And then into my teen years and my adult, I still was like, noise is fine. And here I sit in the 40s, and I'm just like, I crave to have silence sometimes, to just like think about nothing. Sometimes it's good to just do nothing, to sit. And sometimes when I meditate, I will listen to music. And other times, if it's too busy, I won't have music at all. And they're usually called guided meditations, where there's someone guiding you through, or unguided. And an unguided meditation is basically the guide saying a few words in the beginning. There's a whole bunch of silence.
Right.
And then the guide kind of leads you out of the meditation. And it depends on my mood. Whatever the mood may be, that's the type of meditation that I would do for the day. But we were in the Garrison Institute, is where we actually train for mindful schools. And we had to be silent for so many days. Like, we couldn't talk to each other. And it was amazing and scary at the same time.
I want to do that. I've always wanted to go to a silent retreat.
Oh my goodness. It was scary. It was like, wow, I don't hold the responsibility of having to hold a conversation with another individual.
Yes.
This is, and it really became super nice when we had to sit down and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I didn't have to talk to anyone while I ate. I literally chewed and enjoyed each and every bite of my food without conversation. That was like day 1. Day 2, come day 3, I'm losing my mind. We're like, we can't talk to each other, and we can't communicate. And so then at that point, I began to get in touch with my feelings, like think about things that were repressed by the phone, things that were repressed by watching, documentaries or writing. I had nothing to hold on to, and I began to bring up old stuff. And so I would meditate and try to just like say, hey, this is what I'm feeling now. I'm not judging myself. I'm really worried that my kids are not okay because I left them at home.
Right.
Yeah. So, so I went through that. But to have silence is just so peaceful,
It
to
is.
be able to just dig deep or just not do anything at all. It's okay to not have anything to do, you know? Yeah.
And that is a good tip for all the parents out there, you know, because we're
Yeah.
always doing something. You know, it's interesting when you talked about how, you know, at first you were good and then with the silent, and then it was like, okay, and then over time you end up having to deal with things internally. And
Right.
so it's interesting that we do surround ourselves with a lot of noise. You know, like you
Yeah.
said, from the time we wake up, the telephone and the TV, and then our jobs, and then, you know, ending the day with the TV and we go to sleep. And then that
Right.
doesn't give us any time to really, like you said, sit in silence and really understand ourselves,
Right.
right? And what
Right.
motivates us, what are the things that we need to deal with to make us a better, you know, wife, mom, friend, sister, you know, parent,
Right.
etc.
Right.
So yeah, no, that is awesome. The silence is golden, as I say.
Yeah.
Silence is
We
definitely
don't
golden.
always have to do. I
Yeah,
think that, at one point in the early 90s, it was like, you got to be a boss babe. You got to do this. You got to be able to multitask. You got to literally be able to have your hand on here, breastfeed your baby. You know what I mean? And your
yep,
toes are still trying to do things. And that's a lot, to hold yourself to that
yeah.
standard, to constantly be going and going and going. And your
And our
mind just,
society
yeah,
also just says if you're not doing anything, you're lazy, right?
yeah,
So that's the other thing is society has programmed us that if you take time out, like why are you sitting down? Like why are
yeah,
you, you know, and if you want to spend time to by yourself, that you're
yeah,
selfish. So,
yeah,
you know, that to me is like total. So one of my favorite things to do, that's my self-care time. And I haven't done it since it's the pandemic, but I
yeah.
absolutely love the Philadelphia Art Museum. That's my
Oh, wow.
favorite place. So
Yeah,
I will just look, I'm going to the art museum. I don't take anyone with me. You know, it's not a group activity. And
right,
that's my time where I can just walk. Like you said, I don't have to talk to anyone. I can really observe the art. And
right.
then I end up having like lunch or dinner there. And then I come back home. And it's like the most refreshing thing.
Yeah, yeah. Just to do that for yourself, that's really a great way to practice self-care. I'm going to touch on some other things, but I think we have a few comments.
Sure.
Um, let's see if they're coming out here. Tabron Shorts, hi, Tabron says, being the best you can be for you is an awesome way of self-care. Thank you so much for that comment. That's wonderful. Tyrone Hicks says, when it comes to self-care, I love reading.
Oh, me
Nice.
too. You see
That's
all my
very nice.
books here.
I know, right?
I love it.
So let's think about that. The best you. Self-care is being the best you.
Yes.
How do you practice being the best you?
So the way, you know, I think the number one way for me is recognizing when I'm not being the best me.
Yeah,
So for
yeah,
me, you know, sometimes I'm short on patience, or sometimes I'm like, you know, late more than I would like to be.
yeah,
But you know, but I have to like take responsibility for that, right? So I think that to me is when I'm recognizing that, you know what, Kendra, you're not stepping up, right?
right,
So you need to step up and get it together. You know, this is a chronic thing that you're always doing. Let's work on fixing that. So that to
yeah,
me is, you know, when I'm being the best me is when I'm recognizing that, because it's easy when it's easy, right? It's
right,
easy to be
right,
you when it's easy, but it's
right,
like you're under pressure or you're dealing with, you know, anxieties. If you're that type of person that just snap offs at someone because you're
right,
doing, you know, then you're not being the best you. So
right.
that's just my, you know, my opinion on
Yeah,
that.
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I would think, I guess if I had to sum it up, being the best you would would be like loving yourself and not judging yourself while
Mm,
you're doing that, and being free.
yeah.
Just following life and being free and going with what you're called to do without judgment. So let's say I'm on the show, I'm running the show, I make a mistake. and I'm tongue tied, not to beat myself up after the show and say, hey, I should have said that, or I didn't do this.
Right.
Self-care, being the best you, is actually loving yourself regardless and not judging yourself for things. And I think the less we judge ourselves, the better off we are
Yeah.
mentally, because, life goes on, life flows, whether you're, perfect or not. Yeah.
And do you think that judgment comes from us comparing ourselves to other people?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where I think that judgment comes,
Yeah.
because we see and we're like, oh, this person they can do X, Y, and Z, all with their eyes closed, and I can't, I barely
Right.
put it together. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think a lot of that judgment, because I feel like, naturally we're loving creatures, we're nurturers, we have families, we have that desire, a lot of us. But I think when
Right.
we start comparing ourselves to other people, what they have and what we don't have, then that's when we start beating ourselves up
Yeah.
about, oh, why can't you, like me, why can't I be more patient like Buddha?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that judgment could come from it could come from like people seeing other people and wanting what they have, but it can also come from childhood trauma, like having, parents who weren't supportive or who were very negative in that
Very
sense,
true.
or being around friends where they were negative, and then that little chatter stays with you from childhood to when you're a teen all the way up until you're an adult.
Yeah.
And those things happen, but to not just try to not judge yourself according to that. And I mean, that takes a lot of work, and that's another segment that we would have to get into to get deep, like
Right.
into that. But I wanted to also tap into how you said people, are looking at other people. Social media is good for that.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes.
Social media is good for that. And I try to sometimes show like the messy part of me on my Facebook page. Sometimes it's
Right.
hard because you want everything to look like, the way
Yeah.
you want it to look. But I don't always have it together. My house is not always together. My hair is not always together. And so we were in a conversation once with my friends, and I was like, we have to start showing as women that it's messy sometimes. You know what? We're messy. Our kitchen is messy. Dishes are dirty. That's just the way it is. And so that other women could see that it's not perfect, and then we wouldn't be so judgmental,
Yeah.
because that stuff we see on social media is not real. People are trying to show the best. It's like an
Yeah.
advertisement for a commercial, for they're going to show the best cars. It's going to be shined up. When you go to the dealership, it doesn't look like that always.
I know.
you know
I'm thinking, no, let me turn my camera around. It's the rest of my house. We're just gonna keep it on this bookshelf.
right. This is just a section.
Point, yeah, just the bookshelf. Like, yeah, we'll just
we won't throw the other side. But
yeah,
and that is causing a lot of just the inner in you is just, it's frustrating for people because they see one thing and then they're just like, oh, well, I should be this way. And then you start to judge yourself. My concern is with teenagers, because teenagers see these things. Oh, well, and a great example is during the pandemic. Not everyone is doing the same thing.
right,
Everyone's, journey is different. Some people are at the park, other people are going on vacation, while some people are home. And I've noticed that even with my teen, he sees that people are going places and he's like, well, hey,
right,
why aren't we at the beach? And
right.
that's a lot of strain and judgment. And it's having a huge effect on being able to practice good self-care in teens because they're concerned about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a great so I have so my son David, he's 13, so
Yeah. He's
I'm
cute.
an official teen, a mother of a teen now. But there's a great documentary. I think it's still on Netflix. It's called The Social Dilemma.
Okay.
And what this documentary does, because I had him sit down and watch it with me, and this goes to your point, it really talks about how the social media is very curated, right?
Yeah.
So if you're always looking at like pretty houses,
Right.
like inside someone's house because you like the layout, then pretty soon that algorithm that's all you're going to start seeing. And so that starts building an impression in your mind that, oh man, everybody's house is put together but mine. you
Right.
know, and
Right.
so teens, you know, the algorithm for them may be just like you said, you know, start looking at people on the beach or people partying or people this and that. And then
Right.
all of a sudden you feel isolated. So that's
Yeah.
a great documentary that I would highly recommend that people watch, and especially if you have teenagers and adults as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There has to be at some point, especially now with everything going on, that we start to also trim down how much social media that we watch to practice good self-care.
Yeah.
To maybe put a timer on it. There's a timer actually on your phone, or actually in Facebook. You can go and see how many hours you've been on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, and you can set a timer so that you're not on Facebook or Instagram as long as, you know. I mean, at one point I was on there for like 3 hours. I'm like, oh my goodness. For 3 or 4 hours, I could drive back to Pennsylvania.
I know that's right. Oh, so it looks like we have a comment
Yeah.
up there.
Ooh, we have Matthew Kelly. He says, help others make me the best me.
Oh,
Very nice.
helping others.
Yes.
Yeah, helping others, making you the best. That is a good point, because that's the other
Right.
thing is really, you know, if you're already always taking and not giving, right?
Right.
So not
Right.
giving of yourself, your talents, your time, and all of these things. So I think
Yeah.
I can definitely, if that's something that you're motivated by, yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of people
Right.
right now that have such great needs, whether it's physical needs or, you know, emotional needs.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Gratitude is everything. Everything, you know. It's just to actually to give to someone. It's just something to your heart to
Yeah.
know that you're able to give to another person. And I think it's something that we should practice all the time. Way back, I would get into these moods where I were like pretty sad, or, you know, just
Right.
down. And I had a friend say, hey, well, best thing to do is to give, to go do
Yeah.
something, to give back. And so I made it a habit that whenever I was feeling like, you know, down or just unappreciative of anything, then I would just go bless somebody with something. I just go buy a coffee, or I pay it forward in the drive through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ask how much the order is, pay for it, and just keep on rolling. And that would make me feel better. And it would also take my mind off of whatever negative experience that I was having, because I was so focused on doing for that person. And then also wondering, like, wow, I wonder how they felt. They must have felt awesome
Yeah.
that they drove through the drive-through and they didn't have to pay for their Chick-fil-A. You know what I mean? Like,
So
to practice that.
I used to do that when I lived in Dover and had to
Yeah.
commute here. I would pay for the person's toll behind me. Right.
Oh,
Because
that's
we all
nice.
hate paying for tolls. And then I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna pay for the person behind me. And you're absolutely right. Because inside I'm like, oh, that's, you know, I can't imagine
Yeah.
how surprised they were. You know,
Right. Can you imagine? Like, you could just be having the worst day ever. And then
yes,
all of a sudden you go up and they're like, hey, you know what? You don't have to pay for your tolls. The person that was in front of you just pay for that. Like, how that feels to
yes,
just, you know? So
yes,
gratitude is definitely a plus.
yes.
Definitely a plus.
So can we
Do
also
we?
talk about, so you talked about like self-care, but we're in this pandemic state, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I'm not going to the art museum or anything like that. But I
Right.
also think it's about surrounding yourself with things that you like,
Right.
right? So do we,
Yeah.
so just to touch on, so for me, I love music. So besides essential oils, music would be my second love. So
Yeah.
usually the TV's off and I have music going. And then the other thing is like, I'm like a feely person. Like I love
Yeah.
things that I can like really feel. So I'm going to
Right.
share my one little, so I have like this blanket that I
Oh,
feel like
that's nice.
it's from, you know, the Peanuts, but it
Right.
stays on my couch because it's something that I love. I'm like, oh, it feels so good. And just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it puts me in that relaxed type of state. So
Right.
also while we're in
Yeah.
this pandemic, you know, while we're all of us crowded together in the house,
Right.
you should have some things around you that just makes you feel
Yeah.
good, you know, that
Yeah.
brings you joy.
Yeah. For me, that would be being outside, just
Mm,
being outdoors, being able to
right.
see green of some sort, or even connect with a tree. I love trees. I like to see the shapes of the
Yeah,
trees, like
yeah,
even when they have their leaves. And I also like to see them when they don't have their leaves. and I just draw an image and I wonder about its life and how long it's been, where the roots are coming from, how are they getting their source of water,
Right.
and things like that. And I really connect with the outdoors. And that's my way of grounding when I'm really upset or just feeling stuffy.
Yeah.
It's difficult in the wintertime because it's cold. But
Right.
because we're in a pandemic now, I've found ways to actually just deal with the cold and be outside. We've still been going and doing like little walks, but nature, being outside is a connection for me that helps.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. When you talk about grounding, so there's a practice of grounding that
Yes.
yep. So have you tried that?
Um, I like to ground. Well, there's different types of grounding. I can ground through listening to meditation music. There's special
Okay.
grounding meditation music, but to connect with the earth, you take off your socks and your shoes and you put them in the grass and you
Yeah.
just stand, or you can sit in the chair and you just feel the earth and just, appreciate that it's there and that it's connected with us in some kind of way.
Yeah.
That's the way that I actually ground. But when I cannot ground, and I will listen to music. However, you can buy, I think it's like a material where you can ground when it's cold. They
Ah.
have a special material that, and I've seen it like on Amazon. I've not tried it or anything like that. So, for those that don't like the cold earth on their feet,
Yeah. But
you
actually,
could
it
get,
wakes you up. So when you
yeah,
feel that, so that's what Charles needs. He needs to go outside in the cold barefoot to wake up.
barefoot.
Yeah, go with your bare feet. But so I've done some grounding before the cold hit. And yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely makes a difference. And I feel for people who don't know, like Izzy said, it is to
yeah,
connect you with the earth, because one of the things is, if you think about our bodies, having the energy that flows through it, and then we're
right,
always either in our socks or in our shoes, we're walking on concrete, we're walking on on floors. So,
right.
it's very rare nowadays that we are actually touching the actual ground. Like, we're
Right,
always
right,
touching something else. So that,
right.
that grounding, really puts you, kind of like connects you back to nature. And
Yeah,
yeah, so it's
yeah.
really healthy practice to do.
So for those who don't know about grounding or meditation, in the comment section, I will post a link so that you can try it out, to just let yourself go free. I mean, to have like, we're always closed in, whether it's having, our clothes all, tight on us and our coats and things like, sometimes it's just good to just, to let it flow. Yeah.
Do you mean that literally, Izzy?
Yeah.
Like, you got
We're
our
going to
clothes,
record that. Just let it flow.
got our clothes on, just let it
Yeah.
go.
I'm
So
kind of
looks like
feeling
we
like
have,
that with that mask. The,
yeah, true,
yeah,
true.
the mask drives me nuts. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah,
have two comments.
yeah.
Let's see what we have here. We have Tabron Shorts. He says, reinforce your foundation, never absorbed fault. Nice. I like that. Charles comes in and he says, I don't have a problem with getting up in the morning.
Oh, he says, I do have a problem. Oh, I don't have. You don't have.
Charles, and Tyrone is laughing. I think he's making that comment because he doesn't want to ground. He doesn't want to earth
Yeah,
and put
yeah,
his
yeah,
feet on the nice, fluffy grass.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right, Tyrone. Tyrone Rick says, let it
Let
flow.
it flow.
Just let it flow. And he says, playing basketball is another form of self-care for me. That's nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. We all need our outlets. And Izzy, going back to what you do with kids in particular, I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing, is that we have to make sure that our kids also have their their form of getting their own self-care.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Right.
you have any recommendations for that, or how to introduce
Yeah.
kids to meditation, and you can talk about your new book with your daughter.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I believe the best way to help our children in this pandemic is to get them out of the house. Now, when I say this, of course, you need to wear your mask wherever you go. But I think when we first began the pandemic, people were like, okay, we're shut in. And they began to think like we can't even walk out on our porch. or we
Right.
can't even walk it down the block. And so I used to record videos like, I'm walking, I'm fine. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
going to places where there are not a lot of people. We've gone to like Great Falls, Virginia, and, just hiked and do things like that, is to get them out of the TV, get them out of the video games. They're already stuck on the screen
Yeah.
doing schoolwork. You know what I mean? Get them
Yes.
to go out, even if they fuss, to have them go for a walk, ride a bike, sit on the deck, just breathe in the air. Yeah, that's really important. And so what we did, my daughter and I, is we wrote a book called The Mindfulness in Me, and it has short meditations for children, but it also has a part of the book that helps a child to identify with the emotions that they are experiencing. So there's 2 stories that are within the book that kind of touch on, when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're happy. And I also talk about it's okay to have those feelings.
Yeah.
Sometimes as a child, we would cry or be angry, and our parents would be like, stop that,
Yeah.
repress that, keep that in. No, let it go. I'm angry at the moment. Well, why are you angry? Because of this. And so in the book, there are sections where children can draw a picture of how they're feeling. And this will open up an opportunity for the teacher or a parent to say, okay, well, you're angry today. Why are you angry? What can we do about that? Oh, well, let's practice this meditation, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and we can sit and we can breathe and connect with our breath and just understand that it's okay to be mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to be happy. It's okay to be sad.
Yeah. And I think that's good for us as adults as well, right?
Yeah.
Because we always try to, we shouldn't be sad, we shouldn't be frustrated, we shouldn't be this, but
Right.
sometimes you just let it go. I have this rule when I'm really, really like angry, I give myself 24 hours to be angry. Like I'm giving myself permission for 24 hours that I am just going to experience this. And then after that,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Because you got to go through, the emotion is there for a reason, not to say that
Right.
it's always justified, right? But when it's there, you have to acknowledge it, recognize it, and deal with it. And sometimes, depending on the emotion, like sadness or loss or something, you have to sit with it, right, for a while in order to process it. But yeah, so if it's something that's not like hugely significant, but I'm like angry about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm 24 hours. And then after, I'm like,
I think that, and then thinking of repressing these feelings, suicide is on a rise because of all of this. And it's not just suicide with adults, it's also suicide with children. And I think it's another way to practice self-care is to be sure to notice these emotions in your children, notice these emotions in yourself, and know when they are too much and they are affecting your life in a great way. If you can't sleep or you can't eat or you don't want to be around people or you're, crying and you're upset and it's going on for days and months, to reach out and get help. Help is an awesome way of self-care, whether you reach out to family or friends or you reach out to an organization that is qualified to help you, to talk, a therapist and so forth. That is definitely needed in this time. And it's okay to feel this way. Like, this has never happened in all of our lives in the whole wide world. We've never had a pandemic before.
right.
No one's ever experienced this. And so to have to deal with that and all the other things that are happening, we need to make sure we stay in tune with our emotions, to definitely reach out. Great way of self-care, to get help from resources that we have out there. Yeah.
And so I was listening to a program about that recently, because a lot of people are under the impression that since we are under a pandemic, that there are no self-care services out there. So to your point, you may not be able to go to a therapist's office, but there are still, people out there that's practicing therapists. There's still 1-800 numbers. So I reiterate what Izzi said is, as far as making sure you go out and get help that you need. Yeah.
Now they have virtual everything. So for example, and more companies and more organizations are doing everything virtually because they know that people are in need of help. You can get therapy virtually. You can also practice meditation. A lot of the institutions, the University of Virginia at one point was giving away free meditations. You just need to log on to a Zoom. Like if you just reach out, Garrison Institute usually their classes are $200 and $300, sometimes, in the ballpark of 75 to 100, but they were offering like free classes. And so this is a great time to take, advantage of that and being at home and say, hey, I'm going to sit aside and I'm going to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes of meditation with the University of Virginia or whoever may be offering it. But a lot of things are virtual, and it's okay to reach out and to take care of yourself in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you. And before we leave out, I'd like to know if there's any other comments. If there's any comments, we can chat for a little bit longer. And then before we leave, Jean Kelly, this is a great information. Thanks, ladies. Thank you, Jean. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. So before
Izzi, one thing real quick, you didn't mention how people can get your book if they're interested.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you'd like to reach out to me, I could send you a copy of the book. But the best way to get our book, The Mindfulness in Me, which is by Isabel Baker, which is me, and my daughter, Cassandra Baker, is via Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. You can purchase it and have it mailed to you. You could also buy it as a Kindle version. And I also offered the book for actually a student teacher book, so that schools could have this resource in their classroom. It could be a meditation studio that needs it, or you could be homeschooling at home. So you can definitely find it there on Amazon. And Kendra, what about you? Where can we find you?
So you can reach out to me at morelife726 at gmail.com if you want to email me. You can find me on Facebook at Kendra Moore if you want to reach out to me for your essential oils. And then for any body care products, body butters, I have essential oil roller balls that help with inflammation. I actually have one that I did a blend of oils for stress and anxiety. And so that you can find on www.more-life.com. And then I also do a segment every Wednesday here on Feel Good Talk, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. that talks about essential oils, DIY projects, and all of these types of things. So I'm around. You can reach me anytime.
Thank you. Yes, definitely reach out to her. She has awesome products. I've already tried some. It's wonderful. I have another comment here. It says, from Tyrone Ricks, you ladies are a blessing. Oh, thanks, Tyrone. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Chuck said he needs some body butter.
We will take care of that.
I got you, Chuck.
I got you, Chuck.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We should be back next Thursday, probably around the same time. If you are looking to reach out to us and stay connected, be sure to tune in to LinkedIn at Feel Good Talk. We also have Facebook at Feel Good Talk. We're on YouTube. We are everywhere at Feel Good Talk, Mind, Body, Soul, and Business. Instagram is at Feel Good Talk. And we also have a website, which is at feelgoodtalk.net. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. And before we leave, I always like to do this for my meditation. But since we're here tonight and on my heart, I'm thinking about many who are suffering and who are in need of love and kindness. I always like to say, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. And may you live life with ease. May there be peace. May there be peace. May there be peace. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Izzi.
We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.